Hi, everybody. This is Akiko Fujimoto, music director of the Mid-Text Symphony, and today I'm joined by our guest artist for our season finale, violinist Timothy Chooi. Timothy, welcome.
Hi everybody, yay! So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. For everybody who doesn't know, Timothy just finished playing a chamber music concert. So hot off the press, he rushed back home to record this interview with me. So thank you so much. So it turns out that Timothy has already played with the Mid-Text Symphony back in February 2019. You did the Brook with guest conductor Diane Wittry, great colleague of mine also. So the Mid-Text Symphony is very, very excited to have you back this time to play Samuel Barber's great violin concerto. Just a little bit about Timothy. He is the first prize winner of the Joseph Joachim International Violin Concerto Violin Competition and the prize winner of the Queen Elizabeth competition, and was just appointed the artistic partner of the Vienna Concertverein. Timothy, what does that mean, artistic partner of the Concertverein in Vienna?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a very recent position that I was very humbled to receive this position with the Wiener Concertverein in Vienna. It's a very interesting position because it's a little bit undefined, but basically the idea is that I have the ability to curate programs with this
Mm,
ensemble and to find
mm.
opportunities for us to tour. Um, it's not often that I get an opportunity to play and conduct, so in a conductorless ensemble. So
Ooh,
that's
okay.
basically what I get to do. I get to, well, we just did a tour of the Vivaldi Four Seasons and some other short pieces here and there, and we're also looking for some opportunities to arrange some pieces and also commission a new set of repertoire also for violin and chamber orchestra. So
Great.
my role with this is really to curate programs that we can bring this on tour and also to lead it from a conductorless play and conduct position.
So if I feel sick the day of our concert, do you think you can play direct the barber?
Actually, maybe. I mean, that third movement, I don't know. I have to choreograph my foot to give the beat or something.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll try to stay healthy then.
Please stay healthy.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm curious. I know this ensemble is a chamber ensemble, so that's a little bit easier to manage maybe playing, directing. And is it mostly strings or is it strings and winds?
Yeah, we've done up to a Mozart concerto. That's
Okay.
pretty much the limit for now, and I think that probably makes sense for a conductor's ensemble. Once there's percussion and harp and celeste and all these extra incredible instruments, it just becomes, I feel like then I need to conduct. And
Yes,
I don't
yes.
have the training, and neither do I really want to do that. But it's kind of this repertoire from a lot of Baroque stuff to even Piazzolla, and
Mhm.
finding all these gems that are meant to be for chamber orchestra. Uh,
Right.
that we're working with. I don't know how you do it, but I get so confused with the transpositions of certain instruments, especially when it comes to horn and F, or I don't even know about that. Viola is hard for me too, honestly.
Oh, yes, the viola clef, the alto
Yes.
clef. Yeah, you I kind of get used to it. I back in high school, I used to play the trombone, and when it was time to learn the tenor clef, my teacher said, "Don't cheat, just like memorize it as is, like the where the notes are." And he's like, "Don't transpose." Because it'll get you in trouble with accidentals and things. But anyway, when you're gesturing, you're conducting gestures earlier, it looked pretty convincing. So I think something here. Tell me now that you open this can of worms about conducting, play directing, I'd like to know. I'm sure our audience is dying to know what is it like to play and direct an ensemble at the same time.
Mm. Quite frankly, it's when I started doing it, it was actually incredibly immersive and also
Hmm.
liberating at the same time. Especially, I mean, the first couple times you do it is just overwhelming, quite frankly, because suddenly you have to feel the responsibility to take control of the group itself in performance. But there's
Right.
something very liberating in the same time because I am kind of the conductor through sound. There's a lot of liberties that I
Yeah.
can suddenly take, and I don't have to communicate that with a third person, which is the conductor. So that part actually was a
Yes.
lot less intimidating than I had expected. The part that I was incredibly shocked with is rehearsal time. The psychology of musicians, of how we work together
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
rehearsals, because suddenly, as a soloist, I would come in, one working rehearsal, the dress concert, and I let the
Right.
conductor kind of take control of what needs to be done, and I play my part. I smile, I shake the concertmaster's hand, and that's it. But suddenly, I have four or five
Right.
rehearsals, and I have to choose when we're rehearsing stuff, bowings,
Hmm.
also how much do we run something versus go through details and understand, and we're human, if we stop too much, people won't like us, but also if we don't go into detail, they also won't like us either. So also
That's
knowing,
right.
what is the natural momentum of a rehearsal and understanding, do we work immediately on the hard stuff or do we kind of know the stuff, play the stuff we know first, and then, it's easy to really get lost in that world. So for me, that was the unexpected part of now working with the
Hmm.
orchestra, and I had to keep time and know the measure numbers and all the small details that usually I give to the conductor.
Mm. Well, it makes me feel like maybe I do contribute something to the process.
Well, I
Uh,
think I've learned
but
to appreciate more.
yeah, I think rehearsal technique is the final piece of the puzzle that comes for a lot of the conductors training because, of course, you have to be a musician and hopefully you have pretty good, clear gestures to begin with. So you're not impossible to follow and you have some musical ideas, and study scores, all that stuff. But I think rehearsal technique is something that only comes with experience. And I actually, earlier in my career, I had to take a class on it because I think my brain didn't quite work in that way naturally. But unfortunately, this teacher no longer is alive. But once he had a system, and once he explained it to me, it kind of like changed my brain, how my brain works in rehearsals, and it got a lot better since then. But it was hard until it was kind of like searching in darkness. So it's awesome. Maybe someday you can lead us without me, without the third party. I always thought that that would be really cool. But I think for string pieces, it's especially much better for the orchestra to follow your bow, follow your gestures and the subtleties that there's no way conductors can express with a stick, So we're just, so I think it's great that you're doing that. All right, well, let's talk about the Samuel Barber Violin Concerto, one of the greatest American violin concertos. Uh, I'm sure it is a piece that you are so familiar with. How do you approach a piece like this?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a fantastic piece. I learned this later on in my studies. It was something I learned in my master's, so I've heard a lot about it,
Hmm.
and it was a growing piece throughout the time I was studying. I wouldn't say it was as staple as it is today, but it was definitely brewing at the time, and now it's just played everywhere.
Yes.
So, how do I
Yes.
approach this piece? After studying so many of the other big violin concertos, the Brahms, the Beethoven, the
Mm.
Korngold, even so, which is also a very American piece in some ways, and going into that
Yes.
realm of
Yes.
Shostakovich and Prokofiev, it was almost very difficult to learn the Barber because I was trying to search for something deeper in the piece that wasn't there. And not to say that it's a shallow piece or any mean, but
Mm.
that was a difficulty,
No,
is how
no.
simple it was. And
Yeah. Yeah.
everything is very direct and there's very pure
Yeah.
moments and it kind of plays by itself in some ways. So that part for me was very difficult because technically it's very challenging even in some of the slow sections, but it's very direct. It's like you just play the chord. There's no real rubato to it, and it's very systematic. So that's how I approached this piece,
Mhm.
and how I found it was just the simplicity and the purity and the openness
Yes.
is what really strikes to me in this piece.
I love that. And openness is, I think, what, for me, one of the things that make it very American,
Hmm.
compared to other cultures that violin concertos came from.
Right.
Now, I know among all the amazing schools that you attended Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, where Samuel Barber also attended as a student and taught as a faculty member composition. Was there something you picked up about this concerto in the hallways of Curtis? Is it just so? obviously Curtis that people just kind of take it for granted there or don't even talk about it. For the rest of us, outside of Curtis, it's kind of like the holy grail. But is it kind of you guys? Is it like the barber, or were there some secrets in the walls that you found while you were there?
Yeah. Well, literally, I found a photo of him in the walls and framed everywhere, and it was a little creepy
Oh,
because there was a story saying like, "Oh, Barber used to use this room to do all of his courses and his classes, and this is where he taught."
wow,
So, in that sense, it was eerie knowing that you were playing a piece that had grown to such big fame in the repertoire of violin lineage and just entire vocabulary of the concerto world. But I would say maybe, I mean, times have changed so much.
yeah.
So the one thing that I can maybe say is Curtis has been an incredible place to keep its traditions. And
Mm,
I can only imagine when it was founded that in some ways to this day until 2026, but when I graduated it was 2017, that there
mm,
is a sense of like, let's keep some of these traditions that were founded in this institution. So I do believe that Curtis is a very, very, very special place. It
yeah.
feels like the Hogwarts of the
Yes.
classical music industry. Like, I'm serious, it doesn't feel like we're operating in this world, which is a beautiful thing. And also, we can get to another conversation how that's not a good thing. But I would say, for the best parts, it does feel like nothing in the world matters except practicing, performing, and taking your lessons, which is a musical paradise in some ways. So that's that world. I can understand maybe how Barber was able to refine his technique in writing and find his own voice and maybe even challenges because sometimes when you're in that situation, it can be hard to be like, oh, it's time for me to find my own voice in composition, but you can't even find it. But all of that difficulty, that searching, allowed him to kind of create the style that is so iconic with Samuel Barber.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of studying and teaching, I know you're also a professor of violin at the University of Ottawa. How did teaching come into your life, and how does it fit into your busy, very busy performance life?
Ah, it's a very important part of my life. So I was born in Canada and I was raised in the United States. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Canada too growing up, but I would say my teenage years really was in the United States. And, um, you know, during COVID, and also even before COVID, I had just graduated my master's degree. And I was touring, I was performing all of this, and it was all beautiful, all wonderful stuff. I was seeing far reaches of places I've never thought I'd go and play music in. But in some ways, I wanted to share that with people that could also enjoy that into the future. And I realized that it's such an incredible opportunity that music can have. And of course, to have a family of my own, that's something else on a personal side, but to have some sort of people that are interested in this and to share the ways of the violin was became a bigger part of what I realized was what kept the engine going. And so for me, this position came about around COVID's time, and quite frankly, I was very excited when I was appointed this role because Canada was a very, very important part of my support system and network since a kid, and it was what allowed me to study so internationally.
Mhm.
So to come back to Canada has been very special because I would say, I mean, we're a very small country here. We're only 40 million. We're a bit smaller than the state of California and in a size of land that is larger than the United States. So, in a very young country still. So I feel that I'm able to contribute, hopefully, to what will be a very long centuries of worth of violin lineage from Canada and hopefully North America as well in general, because it is a changing world and violin technique is exploding in so many ways. Also, repertoire building and seeing just where the demographics of where classical music is being played, I think is so interesting because, if we think about it, even 50, 60 years, 70, maybe 75 years ago, to think about classical music being played in the Pacific Northwest or up in the North or anywhere and to have it so serious is really a freak of nature. And to be able to grow
Mm.
that further and further through teaching and also finding students that not only want to perform but also contribute to this life of classical music and music in general, whether that's through the
Yeah.
school system, private school system, in an orchestra, creating their own series. There's so many interesting things that is possible today. So for me, that fuels me to perform even more so and to be a good role model and example to kids and to not I mean yeah, I have adult students too, but even for them to keep that joy and be connected in the community through something greater than just work.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic answer. Now you mentioned touring all over the world. Do you have a favorite hall that you performed in?
So many.
Yeah.
I love a lot of European halls. I mean, the Music Verein is a very special one for me, especially now being appointed there.
Yeah.
I get to play there on almost an annual basis. The
Great.
Concertgebouw in Amsterdam is one
Mm,
that I used to watch on YouTube growing up, and finally
yes,
seeing that place. Oh my goodness, right? Let me see where else. In Carnegie Hall is pretty
of
amazing as
course.
well. Carnegie
Oh,
Hall and. Yeah, I would say, of course, those big ones, but one that's more intimate is actually my old university hall in well, when I was a kid, I used to play in this university hall where we did yearly festivals since I was 4 or 5 years old. It's not a fancy hall; it's a nice hall, but I went through so much repertoire there, and to me, it's very
mm,
special because I developed my technique, my fear of performing, or whatever, my comfort level of performing. It all happened in this room.
wow.
And to this day, going back there is just like, it's intimidating, but also it just brings me back to my childhood and all the people that came to support me as a kid to go forwards with this instrument and this career. That also, I would say, ranks up there with all those incredible halls, too.
That's very sweet. I love that. Now you said, all the people that supported you, in your career. Was there a moment where you decided the violin was your thing? This was going to be your life's work, or was it a gradual, unstoppable train?
Well, since we're here, let me show you a photo.
Oh,
This was me when I was 2. So,
oh my gosh, adorable! I like
so
the Spider-Man shirt.
yeah, Spider-Man. So apparently, my mom told me that before I could even speak, I was imitating my brother playing the violin, and I wasn't just like, "Oh, this is fun." I was like intense. My mom said, and if my brother did a wrong bowing from yesterday, I'd get angry.
Wow.
Yeah. I still remember the piece. It was Carbon Fantasy by Sarasate, and it
Uh-huh.
was a video of Sarah Chang that we saw on VHS, that we recorded on VHS. And my
Uh-huh.
mom was like, "This is great. We can save money on a babysitter because Timmy basically just watches his video for 5 hours a day, and he gets
Oh, wow.
tired and goes to bed." So, in that sense, my mom just said like, since I was, and my dad also was just like, "What's wrong with this kid? He just can't stop playing with chopsticks." Um, and that developed into intensity through
Yeah.
my childhood. I was very keen on understanding how the instrument worked. But there's several
Mm.
moments. I would say the next moment was around 10 years old. Um, I was in my hometown in Canada, and Pinka Zukerman came with the National Arts Center Orchestra to do a tour, an outreach tour, and I was asked to play. And he was like, "Hey, come to Ottawa to study with me for a summer." I was like, "Me, this little 10-year-old with this amazing big
Wow.
figure," and he taught me the tricks of the trade, and really that was when I understood, like, wow, like I kind of understand how to understand this instrument now. And then
Wow.
the next pivotal moment was probably the year before I went to the Curtis Institute of Music because I was not quite sure if I wanted to keep this as a hobby or something serious. And I didn't really have a consistent teacher 2 years before going to Curtis. So it was either upon myself to motivate and discipline, or it would just crumble. And luckily, I chose the first option. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was just it was a time when YouTube just came out and all these amazing videos of players like Itzhak Perlman, Ann-Sophie Mutter, Heifetz you could suddenly see in real life. Before it was all
Yeah.
audio. And I
Yeah.
slowed down, watched their fingerings. I was like obsessed about it. And then,
Wow.
of course, once I went to Curtis, it just brought me into that world, and then to Juilliard and so forth. And suddenly, it's like it feels like 10 years, but it also feels like 3 years ago.
That's amazing. You've done a lot in those 10 years. Now, tell me about this Kronberg Academy that's in your bio. You studied there, and that's like an incubation place for like the hottest young violinists, right? And studying with the best. Is
Mhm.
that a school or is that a grad school or what is it? Is it a
Yeah,
conservatory?
I mean, technically, it's an academy, so it offers degrees. I believe bachelor's, master's, and artist diploma, or concert examen. There is what they call it.
Mhm.
And a lot of my career near the end of my studies brought me to Europe. I mean, I did the Verbier
Yeah.
Festival. I had won the prize in Hanover and also Queen Elizabeth. So, in some senses, just naturally, I never imagined a million years that suddenly my life was all in that part of the world, and I was incredibly excited because you learn so much about the traditions and from architecture to history to relevance and just things that you can't even learn through being taught. And
Right.
I was thinking, I was in my early 20s at the time still, and I was saying, I'm not quite done studying, and I have the luxury to have an opportunity to be there. So I worked with Christian Tetzlaff for a couple of
Right.
years. It was a bit of a strange time because of COVID, so it was on and off. But
Right.
it's a program now that has blown up really since I left actually, and they have
Mm.
built a beautiful hall now, Pablo Casal's Hall Forum, and so many incredible, talented musicians, young musicians are studying there to finish off their studies and just have that as a launching pad to create a community of incredibly high level soloists and incredible guest artists as well. So it's kind of this, in my opinion, but I think it's also a study program. It's an opportunity for just really high level musicians that are young and in their maybe early to mid 20s to get together and network and start to think about ideas to launch their careers together.
That's amazing. Now, what are you excited about next? After you leave us in Texas, is there some project or concert that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, a couple. I mean, I'm very excited about this artistic partnership, first of all, with the Wiener Concertverein. That's going to take a couple of months to prepare, but it's a lot of brainstorming with them, with management, with myself as well, and what do I want to play and arranging music as well. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, there'll be a recording hopefully coming out soon. I won't say too much about it, but it's going to be in the works over the next couple of months. And um, yeah, a lot of new programs next season that I truly am excited about. And yeah, just having some time to practice, some practicing
Hmm.
and to get inspired again after a very busy semester of teaching and performing and touring. And yeah, Texas will be kind of that last kind of stamp before the summer season.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are so honored that you're gonna stop by and see us again. And we're so excited to perform the Barber with you. So thank you
Yeah,
so much for joining me. We look forward to seeing you later in April.
of
Thank
course.
you, Timmy.
Thank you, Kiko.
Bye.
Bye.